I'm going to press live now.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to my latest webinar. This is the power of automation, specifically focusing on the financial and insurance sectors, where we're going to be reviewing the capabilities around artificial intelligence and how it can help those verticals. Today I'm joined by, so my name is Godwin. I'm joined by Steve, one of our cloud specialists, and as well as Nadia, who is a solution assessment specialist from Microsoft. So let me jump in. If we look at the needs, well, initially, let's focus on one of the most recent inflection points. This was an environmental inflection point, that is the COVID pandemic. And what that did was help organizations focus their attentions on being able to operate within a new paradigm. And some organizations cope better than others. And actually the financial services and insurance sector, they tend to be more technologically advanced than other sectors, and were able to actually pivot to this new norm. And the way that pivoted was organizations would use the capabilities in Azure. They would adopt, for example, in this particular use case, they to support a disparate remote home-based workforce, they would employ Azure Virtual Desktop. They would layer on the capabilities that come from the control plane within Microsoft, such as Security Center, cost management, Defender and compliance tools, to make sure everyone was operating and being able to contribute to the business under the new norm of the pandemic, whilst maintaining a robust security posture. And then organizations were taking advantage of other capabilities upon that desktop. They were utilizing DocuSign for electronic signatures. They were collaborating more with Teams. They were layering on chat capabilities where they wouldn't necessarily have a branch or an office where members of the public could attend. They started deploying generative AI chatbots. They would visualize data to communicate more effectively when they weren't in the same room, and they would use document management systems such as SharePoint. And this was embracing technology and looking at tools, third-party, first-party tools, to help drive the business forward in this new paradigm. And of course, we are at another inflection point. If I pause for a moment, we look at the history of, certainly in my lifetime, the technological inflection points that have existed. First of all, it was the PC. The advent of the PC, it's global, it's in every country, in every part of every country, the PC is prevalent, and nobody could say that Microsoft didn't absolutely own that space by delivering from Windows for Workgroups, NT, 95, 8 and above. Microsoft provided a desktop operating system environment to allow people to make the most out of their PCs. And then that was also true of when the internet became prevalent. Microsoft created the .NET framework to allow organizations to develop web-based applications. They used early on in the advancements of the internet, using the internet, Microsoft Exchange, the most popular email solution. Microsoft again contributed at that technological inflection point. We'll skip over mobile. But then when it came to cloud, again, nobody could argue that Microsoft isn't a major, if not the key player in that public cloud space. And now we're at another inflection point, which is artificial intelligence. And once again, looking at Microsoft and its abilities to be able to help organizations navigate and excel within that space is key. And so I'm going to drive into that a little bit today. So if you are looking on to go and utilize AI, much like if you wanted to take your car to be MOT'd, you would take your car to the garage, much like you would if you want to use the world's most advanced AI, which is based on OpenAI's GPT engines. Those are available because of Microsoft £10 billion investment in OpenAI. Those are available inside Azure. The advantage of that is within your security boundary, as opposed to anything you type into ChatGPT is used for training future GPT models. That's not the case when you do it inside Azure. So the first thing you need to do is make sure you are in Azure. Then you want to make sure that you have your controls in place, because if you are going to be experimenting to utilize the power of AI, you want to make sure you're not exposing yourself to a bill shock situation. Then you want to make sure you've got your security and performance foundational elements in place. This is key. You do not want to be able to be caught unawares and have members of the public report something to you. You want to be able to make sure you've got your security posture in place so you can start modernizing your applications. Now, this Stage 4 isn't necessarily a prerequisite step, but many organizations that move away from IaaS up into platform as a service are better able and more agile to be able to take advantages of elements further up the stack, which include making your data accessible. Now, this is kind of a critical point, because historically, we've always thought of data as being data silos. It's our finance data. There is an application that talks to a database and that does payroll or whatever it may be. And we tend to think of these things as data silos. The AI and data innovation needs to be able to break down those silo walls and look at data more holistically to make it accessible to the tools that are going to drive business change. And then you want to be able to, once you've got access to that data, you want to be able to analyze that data to get insights into how it can help drive your business forwards. And then when you collect all those, you can start building those building blocks. You're now at the sort of penthouse suite where you can start implementing your AI strategy, because you've got your base building blocks under control. And you're able to start exploiting generative AI and other such capabilities. And I'll explore on those a little bit further. So if we look at some of those key steps around preparing your data, I mentioned a second ago, it's not about looking at data in silos, it's looking at it holistically. So whether it's product data, employee data, operational data, client data, having the ability to be able to hook into all of that data, not necessarily using 100% of that data, but be able to tap into that data so you've got connectivity to that data. So should you need to go and use that for any analytics or indeed any AI use cases, connectivity to that data is key. So if you want to transform your data, there are steps that you would need to go and take. So connectivity is just stage 1. But as we go along the pathway, historically, we've looked at things like, say, at the bottom here, we think of things like application or server migration, but really, actually what we're doing is the data migration. And those foundational steps you've undertaken for those that are already in Azure, or indeed other public clouds, you've already done those foundational steps. But then organizations that want to go further will look to modernize their data, whether that be democratize their data, transform their data, connect their data, make it available for the tools to help you gain further insights, which would take place at the next stage. You can start tapping that data that you've got. So you've modernized your data. Maybe you've taken something like a finance system. Well, actually, I don't now, or a payroll system. I don't need all of that data. I need some of the transactional level information, but telephone numbers and personal identifiable data isn't necessarily required to perform certain types of analytics. In other cases, it might be. But you would transform that data in the modernization steps so you can understand and analyze that data more effectively. And you can use, and Microsoft provide, a number of pre-built AI capabilities, which I shall touch on in a moment, to be able to accelerate the exploitation of that data. And then ultimately, for those organizations that want to go a step further, and it is typically the FSI sector that is kind of leading the way in this space, is to be able to develop customized models. So taking a machine learning model that's been bespoke to your business needs rather than a pre-trained, pre-built model that Microsoft have provided. And they can provide you the tools to customize your model, and you could then infuse that with cloud native applications to exploit them depending on your use case. So that's all well and good and sounds all fluffy, but let's try to sort of bring this to life a little bit. So let's say you've got a bunch of strategic goals that you want to achieve. Well, you've all got your master data sources. So you've probably all got customer data. And if you store that data, I would hope that you are doing that in a compliant fashion. And as you move forward, you may want to say, right, well, I want to be able to ingest, I want to stop this data silo, I want to be able to ingest data from other sources to be able to do some more advanced analytics. So I'll pull in data, whether it be policy data, transaction data, claims data, whatever those data sources may be, I'll utilize the capabilities, the ingestion and management capabilities available in the platform to be able to pull that data in. And then what I could do is, having seen multiple different data sets, actually a lot of business process workflows touch on all of these elements. So maybe you could layer in a business enhancement that automates transaction processing. There are many other examples you could put in this box. This is just one of them. And then maybe in doing so, you can hit that first milestone of having some level of data automation within your organization, your key strategic goal. Then maybe moving forward, you say, right, I've got all that data and I've got some automation in place, but I want to undertake some more advanced analytics against that data to gain further insights. So maybe I want to be able to, first of all, just communicate with my data. At the moment, data in of itself can be challenging because data isn't necessarily information. Having generative AI capability that allows you to use natural language to go and ask questions of your data can be really helpful in you developing further capabilities, such as making data-driven decisions. And some organizations will say, well, that's great, and I've got that, I can chat with my data, I've layered in some automation around my business processes that align with that data, but I want to take things to the next level. I want to be able to create a highly bespoke AI that is delivered on our data for our organizations, highly bespoke for our needs. And this is where machine learning comes in. Now, let me just pause for a second. Machine learning, if I was to now teach you the 10 times table, you are learning. We are in a machine learning mode. However, if you were to leave this webinar and someone comes up to you and says, what's 11 times 11? I've not taught you that. However, you would be able to effectively answer the question, because actually what I've taught you is the rules around multiplication. So you're effectively able to answer that. And that's artificial intelligence. You train something, which is machine learning, and then it gets used in a situation it hasn't seen before, but using that grounding, it can use it, and that's artificial intelligence. Whether it would be, and let's take a completely random use case, patient goes into an MRI machine, the machine scans it, records a whole load of statistical data. Lots of it, we think of it as images, it's actually a whole load of numbers predominantly, and AI can analyze that and tell you whether that patient has a malignant or benign tumor. It's never seen that patient before, but it's been taught how to diagnose. So that's the machine learning. Applying it to a specific patient is artificial intelligence. So having had that machine learning capability and having artificial intelligence, you can now do predictive operational intelligence activities. What is going to happen to my business if I do this? What insights can I get from my machine learning model that will drive my business in a new direction to achieve greater revenues or reduce risk or lower the number of claims or whatever it may be? Also, pulling these things in together, you might better understand a client lifetime value. And what can be interesting in these models is it can tell you the client lifetime value of a client you don't even have yet. And that can be really, really interesting. Then you might want to say, right, well, I've got all this information. This is great. And I'm accelerating my business forward. I'm liking this. But I want to empower my workforce a bit more to be able to exploit it, rather than it may be in the purview of just the leadership team as a set of outputs. So maybe you want to visualize that data. By visualizing data, you're effectively turning data into information that is consumable. And maybe then you want to be able to build that into an application that can be consumed by your staff or your customers. Maybe it's around personalized experiences. Maybe it's about looking at a portfolio, an investment portfolio, and saying you're over leveraged here based on your risk profile and your transaction history. You should consider these 10 things, or you should consider this insurance policy, or you enable your sales staff to be able to be more effective in their role by providing the information that helps them close sales. So this process I'm going to describe is about machine learning, but I don't want you to get hung on it, because machine learning, it sounds scary, Leon. It really isn't. I can't code for toffee. .net is the end of my email address. I really don't know how to code at all, but I built dozens and dozens of AI solutions all the time, just playing around with stuff. And they all follow a similar life cycle. So this life cycle I'm showing you here is machine learning, but it basically follows a similar principle no matter what sort of AI direction you're going with. AI is an engine, and that engine runs on fuel, and that fuel is data. So whether you've got local data or you've got remote data, the first thing you want to do is connect to that data and then say, is it of sufficient quality? And it will do some processing on that data to clean that data so it's appropriate for your use. That element of the program. Now, I could be talking about Copilot here. If you are going to adopt Copilot, you want to make sure that your prerequisite components are all in place before you hit the big red button to say, I'm going to buy a Copilot license. You want to get those steps in place, and that represents about 60% of the effort. Then in this particular case, we're doing a machine learning model, but it could also be that I'm developing and I'm configuring an AI capability. It could be that I'm configuring my Microsoft 365 tenancy in preparation for configuring policies in preparation for use of Copilot. The point is there is another subsequent activity. So one's a very data orientated activity, another one's a more configuration orientated activity, which is about roughly 30% of the effort. And then you operationalize that outcome. And Microsoft, they make it incredibly easy. And I will show you a very short video. Basically, I can go and build an AI in about 4 minutes, and I can deploy it in about 30 seconds. Microsoft make it incredibly easy to be able to go and do that. And once again, I don't know code. So we take another step back and say, right, okay, let's look at this from a process point of view. I've got a goal. My leadership have said, I want to be able to utilize artificial intelligence for our business. And there'll be some kind of defined strategic goal. I'm massively simplifying this step. You want to give it a little bit more thought than what I've just explained, but there will be a business imperative. And then the first question you need to ask yourself is, do you have the existing data to be able to meet that requirement, that imperative? If the answer is no, then the question is can you go and get the data that you need to be able to meet that imperative? If the answer is no again, go back to the board and say, sorry, AI needs data for fuel and our car is empty. We have no existing data and we can't get new data. That project's not moving forward. But more often than not, you will have the data. Your financial services and insurance sector, you've got mountains of data. So then is it of sufficient quality? And you would ask yourself, okay, yes, some of it is, but some of it isn't. So do I need to change something in my operational process to say that ensures I get the data quality in place, or is indeed the amount of data in there, it's just too vast, and what I need to do is be able to say, actually, I only need a subset of this data. I only need the totals, the totals and the dates. I don't need every single field in this data table. And then you may turn around to yourself and say, actually, we're a global organization. Some of these date formats are an American date format. We need to unify this on a common date format. So I need to transform that data, and I need to be able to deliver modify that and transform that data so it's got a consistent data format, or I'm obfuscating email addresses or whatever it may be. And that brings us to this question. Now, I've delivered this in a particular way as to make you think about this question. What do you want AI to do? There is a model that can work for you, but what model would you need? All these other steps are just driving you to think about this question. If I'm going to identify that first block, what is my business imperative? Well, understanding the art of the possible is kind of key. And what the capabilities and models of these models are is also key. So do you want something that is conversational? Do you want to be able to put something in front of a client or on a website or for internal staff to have discussions with? Think ChatGPT, think chatbots, that kind of thing. Or do you want something that is going to dynamically create content? I'm a big fan of that particular component. I run through a process where I build AI using YouTube as a data source, because I personally don't have access to large amounts of information, but YouTube does. So I tend to extract a lot of the video files, convert it to audio, and then convert that to text, and then start training models based on that text. And then when it has that understanding, I can start getting it to create content for me. So is it content, or do you want something that's more data driven, that is actually a model that you're going to use to make data driven decisions? Once you've selected, there are many more models. This is a square box, so I had 3 other pathways to go to. But understanding what those capabilities are is kind of helps you inform you as to the art of the possible. So then the question becomes is, do I need to stop there? If you do, that's great, and Microsoft will make it very, very easy for you to stop at that point and go and operationalize that outcome. But you may want to go and bespoke your own model. So if the answer is no, you would deploy it to your AI platform and you would operationalize it. And if you want to customize it, then you would use some tools like cognitive services and machine learning, and there's a whole bunch of sort of technology that's available that will deliver these outcomes for you. And then you would deploy them, you monitor, you scale, you'd improve upon it with your custom model. So let me try to bring that to life a little bit more with a scenario. Let's say you've got a quoting system, and let's say someone places an order and that will update a table somewhere within that quoting system. And maybe you've already gone as far as actually hooking up to that table so your leadership team can get some sales insights into what's going on with that quoting information. Great, nothing particularly fancy there. But if we take it a step further and say, why don't we hook in our claims documentation information? And why don't we hook in our all the claims that the claim records that take place, and then add in some financial and fraud analytics? Because as some of you will undoubtedly know, in the insurance sector, there is a correlation between someone saying, I'd like a quote, I'm happy with that quote, I want to take that quote, I want it live now. And statistically, they're much more likely to go and put a claim in for a accident or whatever it was, let's say it's motor insurance, because the fact is they'd already had the car accident before they took out the policy. They were uninsured and they're effectively trying to commit fraud. And what machine learning models are better able to gain insights into that. And then you can deliver now, just because of the screen real estate size, in reality, you could bring in many, many, many different more data sources. But you could bring in financial information, you could analyze this, and so you've got your, on the middle right hand side, you've got your machine learning model that's constantly pulling data, because there's constantly transactions, there's constantly claims, there's constantly quotes, there's constantly update to documentation, there's constantly fraud type activities taking place. And there's constantly business insights that can come out of that. Having something that can go and pull that data in, understand it, provide insights, and then report back up to the leadership team, or maybe propose changes to claims documentations to help minimize risk and exposure. There's a million different outcomes that are potentially available using these. And then imagine, just in this diagram here, imagine layering in other data sources and how that might change your business. So to do this, it sounds all very, very complicated, but trust me, it's much easier than you think. You could use the capabilities within Azure. So Azure have the Azure OpenAI service. Within there, it can go and summarize text. So imagine being able to read all your claims or insurance documents, your financial documents, being able to read and summarize all that text in a very, very convenient way, particularly useful in the legal sector. I know you guys aren't the legal sector, but being able to surface what's most important out of a long document can be very, very useful. So to classify data and text into different categories, to be able to communicate using natural language to your databases, and to generate new products based on a bunch of tools and capabilities that exist on the platform are very, very common use cases of how people might use Azure to change and modernize their business. You've got the GPT models that were available, so 3.5 and now version 4, and very shortly Turbo will be available as well within Azure OpenAI. Embeddings, that is how you get your data into a convert it into a format that can be consumed with AI. And DALL-E is that is your like Salvador Dali. It's image based elements. These are models that have been created. I can understand your text. I can go and convert that text. I can store it in databases, so I can go and retrieve it. I can do something called semantic search that allows me to find text based on likeness. I can go and examine images. I've been playing around with this one quite a lot recently. It's actually terribly useful. And then what they've done is they make it even easier for you. They provide this digital playground for you to go and mess around with. And so if I look in here, I can click on the playground and you've got a bunch of stuff already configured by Microsoft. Whether you want to go and look at the sentiment of something, you want to go and classify text or detect the intent, you want it to automate the production of an email, you want it to be able to look at reports, you want to be able to tune out hallucinations out of these things, or indeed you want to go and add your own data. You can just click on add your own data, click on the data sources, point to a database, a file store, some documents, upload files. That's a really easy way to start playing around with it, and you can start delivering AI. One of the great things is in just that previous shot is once you've added your data in, you can go and start playing around and chatting with your data. There's a little button in the top right hand corner that says deploy as a web app. It's about 2 mouse clicks and you've operationalized your this little capability. These playgrounds are really, really good. The reason I mention this is as you start to want to understand the art of the possible, you want to build a culture within your organization that will experiment to understand how you can best leverage. You can obviously speak to people like myself. I'm a free of charge resource. I do not work in sales. I'll help you wherever I can. But ultimately, you will want to play around with it in your own organization. These playground services are great for that. And then we have Copilot. Copilot is an ecosystem of tools. Basically, roughly, if I divide that screen horizontally in half, those on the top half of the screens are kind of personal accelerators. They allow me to be a little bit more effective in my role. It can analyze my emails, it can write Word documents for me, it can produce very pretty Excel documents, it can produce PowerPoints, it can summarize meetings. If you're late for a meeting, you can just ask the chatbot, what did I miss? Are there any actions at the end of the meeting that have been brought up that haven't been dealt with? These are kind of personal accelerators. And then at the bottom of the page, you've kind of got that's elements that are more departmental, organizational, transformative. There's AI being infused into Dynamics. There's AI, and I'll show you an example in a moment, of Microsoft Fabric. Very, very cool. Shortly, Microsoft will be coming out with their security product that's AI enabled. It's not general availability just yet. If you're a coder and you've got a code first type approach, then you can go and use GitHub Copilot, which will help you write code. And I've seen a lot of organizations reduce their application development times by 50% using GitHub Copilot. I'm kind of a fan of that one because I don't know how to code, so it creates the code for me, and I kind of like that. And then you've got low code for those people who don't understand code, and you can use PowerPoint, and you can kind of use Power Platform, and that's got AI infused on it. Please write me an application that allows me to update groups in Active Directory. And it starts creating these things. And then you're going to have Copilot. I've got the beta version on this laptop. Copilot will be infused in Windows. And as some of you have probably seen in the press, there's stories about Windows 12 coming out, which is going to potentially be more infused with AI going forward. So there are lots of different Copilots. Their ecosystem is quite broad. So whether you're looking to develop applications, you've got the Power Platform to be able to do that. If you want to go a step further, you've got the AI-enabled services such as that exist within Azure, whether it be an AI that can recognize the content of a form, handle video and index videos, that can go and provide a chatbot service, be able to search through large amounts of data. There are application platform capabilities that can go and do that. If you want a pre-built model that Microsoft are providing for you, whether it be for vision or speech, I've got an AI. Honestly, even I can't tell whether or not it's me or the AI speaking. It sounds just like me. I've trained it. Honestly, I can't tell the difference. It's amazing. So there are lots of different capabilities, and then you've got obviously the bespoke capability with machine learning. So how might you go and use it? Well, Fabric is one of my sort of favorite products, because if I think of the AI journey as kind of like bookends, I take these bookends and throw them away, and I just take what's left in the middle. This is kind of what Fabric does. It says, right, well, I need to be able to connect to data anywhere. So as long as it's got a network connection, then you can use Data Factory to be able to go and integrate and connect to your data. It could be, I don't know, in Salesforce, it could be in some on-prem CRM, it could be in AWS somewhere, it could be wherever it is. It can go and connect to multiple data sources. And then you might want to say, well, I want to put a copy of that in because I don't want to go mess with that data. I want to clone that data, copy that data, and have a copy of it locally and keep it synchronized. And so maybe I'll build a data warehouse to go and put that in. Again, it's just, think of it as just a big bucket of storage. Then data engineering, that's around transforming that data to be able to monkey with that data in some way, so you can go and adjust it, improve the quality of it. You may want to go down the machine learning model where you'd use the data science capabilities of Fabric. You might want to do analytics. You might want to be able to visualize that data and turn it into information. You might want to do actions. If this condition is true, then go and do this action, and having that observability and then and take actions on that is really cool. So I mentioned about turning data into information. Here is a user who doesn't know anything about Power BI, but knows how to describe what it is they would like to happen. So in their own natural language, they describe what they would like to create. Copilot goes away, understands it, analyzes it, looks at the data, and produces this beautiful dashboard. And it does it in moments. But this dashboard isn't static. You can click on stuff, you can edit it, you can slice it, you can do what you want for it. It's very interactive, very kind of 2.0. Then, and I'm not going to play this whole video, but if you wanted to ask questions on that data, why are my sales going down? What stores are most effective? What policies are presenting the most at risk? You can start chatting with your data and communicating it effectively. So in this case, it's asking for drivers, and it analyzes that and go and provide the answers, but it's not providing it in text. Oh, no, it's providing in this really cool dashboard just to answer that one question. How cool is that? It's visualize and turn data into information to contextualize the answer in a visual format for your question. And it goes on and on and on in terms of the capability. You can rebrand it, recolor it, blah, 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 all just with a bunch of questions. So if you're, as you are, in the financial services insurance sector, do you want to look at maybe automating your underwriting or improving your fraud detection? Do you think you could benefit from boosting productivity? Do you think that you might have a bunch of democratized data that you might want to go and share with other parts of the business? Do you want to be able to create customized products that better meet market demand? Do you want to be able to get insights out of vehicles and the telemetry that exists there? And do you want to effectively transform your operations, your products within your sector? All of these are very common use cases in the financial services industry for the adoption of AI tools. So if you want to look at risk profiling, Copilot can actually help with that. A little known capability of Copilot that doesn't get talked about enough is it's got plugins. So you can go and plug in to, Word and Teams, great, but you can go and plug it into your SQL database. And now all of a sudden you're being able to communicate from your desktop with an AI that's seeing your business data, more of your back end data, not just your file store, document library, that kind of thing. So whether it be about risk profiling, fraud detection, regulatory compliance, predictive modeling, or personalization, there are tools available that can help you meet those challenges. From a Copilot point of view, what it does is it's very good at extracting information out of existing data sources. It's very good at creating visualizations or presentations based on information that might be stored in notes or in Teams or from other sales documents. To be able to manage your email can be very, very useful. Create your own documentation, like that's a capability at the bottom I use all the time. This allows organizations to be efficient, save a lot of time, and honestly, if you're not saving time and not delivering efficiency, then it's probably not a change worth doing. And you turn data into information. So I'm going to hand over to one of my colleagues, Steve, now, who's going to talk to you a little bit about how we can help in that space.
Great stuff. Thanks, Leon. Hi all. By way of introduction, I'm Steve Don. I'm one of the Microsoft Enterprise Cloud Specialists at Cloud Direct. I'm just going to take a few minutes to provide a very brief Cloud Direct overview and share details of how we support businesses looking to move forward with AI and Copilot use cases and projects. Since delivering the UK's first partner-led customer 365 migration, Cloud Direct have been at the forefront of delivering innovative, growth-enabling Microsoft services. Now, 10 years on from achieving that milestone, we're one of Microsoft's fastest-growing Azure, modern workplace and security specialist partners. That success is in part due to the continued reinvestment in the business, particularly in the area of certified training, advancement and recruitment of Microsoft technology architects and leadership. Our intimacy with Microsoft and its programs allow us to extract maximum value on behalf of our clients, and we're proud to have secured more Microsoft modernisation and innovation funding for our clients than any other UK partner in the past 2 years. As a result, customers selected Cloud Direct have total confidence they are working with a globally recognised specialist who sits in the top 1% of accredited partners. Next slide, please, Leon. Thank you. We're an agile partner and we work with clients in the way they prefer to operate. Our first point of engagement always depends on the client's unique situation, and this is no different when looking at AI and Copilot projects. For organisations yet to identify AI and Copilot driven use cases, we suggest the first starting point to be our fully funded deep dive Copilot workshop. This session with our senior architects take a deep dive through the technology and explores art of the possible scenarios that are relevant to your organisation. At the conclusion of the workshop, customers are armed with the knowledge to identify potential AI and Copilot use cases and with associated expected business value returns. For the next slide, I'm going to hand across to Nadia.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for the invite to be part of this. Very insightful content so far. By the way of introduction, I'm Nadia, I'm a solution assessment specialist at Microsoft. And what solution assessment team does is basically we're providing a consultative service to customers to help them build a business case before they make investments to transform their businesses from IT perspective. So we do have actually quite a few different offerings in the solution assessment portfolio that cover anything between migration, modernization of workloads like infrastructure workloads, database applications. Also, like we can look through security, making sure that you as our customers have the confidence in the security posture that you want to have. So these are just a few different things that our team does. One of our newest addition to the portfolio is Zero Trust Foundation assessment that you see on the screen. Why do we want to talk about that one now? Is because it relates to everything that Cloud Direct team here talked about earlier. How should you start looking at Copilot? Like, what are the first steps you can do to get direction, how to prepare for Copilot? Is the answer on the screen. So Zero Trust Foundation assessment has the objective to provide you the initial direction on the readiness to adopt Copilot and leverage its functionality. And, you know, as Leon said earlier on, to to start using the power of the technology to speed up processes and to be able to actually be much more efficient in the way you operate. The way this assessment works basically is through a tool scan that we do. So we are scanning the environment through a third-party tool that Microsoft uses, and Microsoft invests in the licenses for the tool. And this is bundled with a questionnaire that is Zero Trust Foundation questionnaire. So all of those two components are meant to evaluate your current Zero Trust score from like different aspects, all 6 domains like devices, applications, infrastructure, data, network, identities. So it looks at all those aspects. And then the assessment itself provides a high-level overview of security posture, and also it can identify things like third-party tooling, shadow IT systems that are installed. You can see different software versions that you have at your environment, and you need to clean up and make sure that your environment is tidy. And then based on all of those insights, the assessment comes up with a Copilot readiness score based on all those factors. And it gives you an action plan recommendations on how to increase this score and what you need to do to actually get started with Copilot readiness and adoption. In terms of like process, the way you request this, so you obviously always can reach out to Cloud Direct team to guide you through how you can get nominated and how you can actually get approved for such an assessment, which is a Microsoft funded effort. And then in terms of duration of the assessment, it can be actually pretty quick. A couple of weeks could be enough for us finishing the assessment, while it's like only 2 to 4 hours engagement from customer side to get this completed end to end, including the debrief actually of the insights and results out of the assessment. One thing that I just want to highlight as well, during assessments, no data is gathered or shared without your express consent, and this can be withdrawn at any time. Your data would be exclusively used only for the personalized roadmap that our team would be doing in collaboration with Cloud Direct as your selected partner. So really, this is the overview of this assessment. We're happy to support you if you have any questions. And yeah, if you have any interest or questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to the Cloud Direct team. And with this, I want to go back to Steve.
Thanks, Nadia. Next slide, please, Leon. I think we've got the echo sorted. Not quite. There we go. Okay, so yeah, thank you. Thanks, Nadia. No, we haven't got this yet. Hopefully we're not getting too much. That's it. We got it. We're there. Good stuff. Yeah, so thank you, Nadia. As you can see, when we engage with organizations that already have an identified AI use case, we help develop these in the ways that we see summarized in this slide. We've heard lots today of the essential requirement of having your data foundations in place. We have a specific data design and deployment engagement, which, as always, leverages Microsoft funding to deliver this prerequisite of your AI and Copilot projects. We're also mindful, however, that some organizations, before investing in building their data foundations, need to develop minimum viable products and proof of concepts to prove the business value that in turn will release the business investment required for commencing their production deployment projects. In these scenarios, we work with customers to design and deliver the proof of concept and value, and as always, leverage that Microsoft funding to both de-risk the project and maximise the likelihood of success. Finally, with the data foundations in place and business investment secured, our architects and consultants work with you to design, deploy, and where required, provide ongoing management and optimization of production, Azure platforms, and 365 Copilot AI platforms and services. Again, we're securing that Microsoft modernization funding to offset against the associated project professional costs. Next slide, please, Leon. So in summary, wherever you are in your Microsoft AI and Copilot journey, we have the expertise and services to help you move forward with momentum. If you'd like to discuss your own situation and requirements, please reach out either to your primary point of contact or use the details shared here, and we'll be delighted to join you on an initial call to identify the appropriate next steps. That's it for me. All that's left is for me to thank my fellow presenters, Leon and Nadia, and thank you for joining this webinar. Thank you.